Hey everybody, it's Mike, Treasure Coast Fishing Chronicles, and today's video I am dedicating to all you kids out there that don't have access to boats and still want to get out there and go fishing. So one of my favorite places to fish when I'm targeting snook, bass, sheep's head, anything, are these spillways here in Fort Pierce. So there's a few things you should know about fishing spillways. Number one, always be aware of the danger of alligators in Florida. 2, poisonous snakes hang out at these places all the time. 3, never get in the water here. Super dangerous currents, and you don't want to go out that way, guys. And also, be prepared to lose tackle. Big fish, big rocks, big losses. Check out some of my blooper reels from the Pumpkin Spillway in Fort Pierce. So, we're gonna go over to my chest cam and I'm gonna show you where to fish at these spillways. So you can see the boiling of the water here. That's where the water is getting pushed underneath, coming off the waterfall, and it's coming back up. So it's probably hitting something like a wall or a large rock underneath. This is gonna push your bait up, and I generally try to avoid these areas. Sometimes you'll get pulled into them and get lucky. A lot of times snook will hang out right on the outside of these and hit the bait fish getting washed over and popping up. So try to imagine what a bait fish would do when it comes over that spillway. In the far corner pocket over there, you see how there's a smaller boil up against the thing, up against the wall. Down that wall and by that metal pipe, as that water is wrapping around that pipe, they're gonna be an ambush point, and snook are ambush predators. So you're gonna look there. You'll catch bass and snook in these areas. Right along this wall beneath me is another great spot. Now trying to target that, I wouldn't want to fish it from here. I'd want to fish it from either that side of the spillway or carefully from these rocks and casting this way. And maybe work my bait back across here. The baits that I'm gonna throw are typically 1/2 ounce to 3/4 ounce, depending on how fast the water's moving for a jig head. And I like light colored baits in tannic water. I seem to have better results. The next thing I'm gonna do is these calm areas back over this way or down this mangrove line. I'll throw a topwater like a spook, or Salt Strong makes a moonwalker. I love that bait. Actually, you see that right over there, there's a little bit of a feeding frenzy going on the top of the water. So that's what I'm talking about. That are the areas you want to look for. Next, I will use my jig heads and work along across the spillway. Or to get a little more range, I'll chuck my popper down towards that bridge and along this weed line and see what I can pull out. If you watch, that weed line's moving. So you're gonna end up getting tangled up. Be patient, keep working it, and you'll eventually get your bite. I've caught fish here from 6-inch snook to 35-inch snook, and I come to these things just to watch other people pull out monsters. This spillway in particular, we're out here at Gordy Road, and every once in a while we'll get lucky and catch redfish out here, sheep's head, big jack, tarpon. Your possibilities are limitless. It's a great place for young anglers to come out and target species that you don't really have access to other ways. All right, let's give it a shot. I'm gonna show you guys a few casts and we're gonna see what we can get to bite. I'm gonna throw top water first because I saw that blowing up over there, and I'm gonna try to work it through that calm water that you see on the other side of this spillway. A lot of times the tarpon like to sit at the edge of these bubbles, and you'll see them rolling backs through the bubbles, hitting mullet and all kinds of other bait. This is the Salt Strong Moonwalker. I like the single hooks, especially when I'm fishing where there's a lot of grass and debris on top. It helps cut down on how much crap you're snagging in the water, and it's a little harder to get snagged up on rocks and stuff. So let's give it a chuck. Hey everybody, just wanted to give my sponsors a big shout out. Big thanks to Sponsor Buzz for revolutionizing the sponsorship industry. With Sponsor Buzz, you get the products you actually want, and they reimburse you. Plus, when you get sent in a picture with you, the product, and your fish, you score an extra $20.
Thanks to Sponsor Buzz, we're able to keep bringing you awesome fishing adventures and youth clinics right here on the Treasure Coast. Don't wait, sign up today. One of our new sponsors, here on the Treasure Coast, we trust Orchid Island Tackle Company, independently owned and operated, and proudly made right here in Florida. Their baits are built tough, designed by anglers for anglers, and they flat out produce results in both fresh and saltwater. Whether you're chasing redfish on the flats or largemouth on the lakes, Orchid Island Tackle gives you the edge. Support local, fish smarter, and go with Orchid Island Tackle Company.
Try to read the currents and get your bait to drift where you want it to go. Sometimes that's easier than casting it where you're trying to get to. We're going to aim for that back corner pocket over here. There's a little bit of wind. A lot of times, kids out fishing, and when I was younger, I only had one main rod that I used, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm lucky enough that I have the opportunity through a lot of times, just even from a company like Sponsor Buzz, that hooked me up with lots of gear. So now I don't have to cut my line, retie, and to change my baits. I'll bring 2 or 3 rods out, and it's a little bulky and a lot to carry around, but now I don't have to cut and retie. I can just alternate between rods instead of alternating between baits. I'm working this popper right up this bubble line. The tide's crazy high right now. The water level's nuts. So we might not do super great. More water means more room for fish to sit. We've been getting a lot of rain. Oh, got him. Look at that. That's what I'm talking about, guys. Topwater popper, and he hit me, and I was working that like my last cast, and I got him right up at the edge of the rocks, literally 2 inches from me lifting my bait out of the water. And he was sitting right underneath the bubbles. Easy, buddy. So he's not a monster, not the Spillway monsters, but this is what I want you guys to learn how to catch. Still a lot of fun, and topwater bites are the best kind of bites you're gonna get. And he was sitting right here, and as my bait came up this way, he was ready to ambush it, waiting for all the bait getting washed around from that side. So there wasn't a lot of fight in that snook, and I didn't really get drug across the rocks, and he didn't have the hook deep in his mouth. I hooked him on the outside of the mouth, and that's awesome, because the next point I want to make, when you're fishing for snook, especially at spillways, on boats, wherever you're fishing, snook have very abrasive lips and gill plates, and you get drugged through all kinds of structure. So always check your leader. Don't be lazy. Remember to retie. Otherwise, you're going to hit a personal best snook, and you're going to hate yourself because you were lazy and you didn't retie. I've done it myself. I'm guilty of it. And then you lose the best snook of your life. Most of my baits, I do like to throw smaller baits. You have to remember, elephants eat peanuts. So a lot of times, if you're not getting a bite throwing these giant tank lures, what you're trying to do is mimic what you want to match the hatch. And that being said, what you're trying to do is fish the bait that the fish are hitting. If they're not hitting your big baits, a lot of times they're hitting tiny little fry or, glass minnows or small greenies. And when you're throwing a 4 or 5 inch paddle tail, it just looks like a bigger fish, and they're not going to want to put the effort in to get that. Most fish are lazy and opportunistic. And they like an easy meal. So I just cast it along that mangrove line. I'm gonna work it kind of slow here. A lot of times what'll happen is you'll get a snook's attention and they'll just follow you and sit under your bait, watching to see what it does. Give it a break, let it rest, and then work it a little bit more. And I am by no means the best fisherman at any kind of fishing, but you learn the fundamentals, you develop your fundamentals, and you're gonna improve your skills. And a lot of skills for fishing are universal, and you can transfer them to any kind of fishing there are. Learning how to stalk predator fish, ambush predators, which ones go to reaction bites. And different ways to work it, how to read the water. These things are going to benefit you whether you're fishing freshwater, saltwater, and it'll help increase your productivity on the fish you catch. So what I'm using now is a Texas-sized weedless rig so I don't get stuck in these rocks. I'm using a 1/4 ounce jig head, which is a little light for here, but it's allowing me to work and bounce it off the lines. A lot of times when snook aren't hitting on top, what they're looking for is bait that's on the bottom. And what you want to do is create a little commotion on the bottom. So you want your bait to really punch the sand or punch the mud or silt and make a noise or a puff of silt in the bottom. And that'll really grab the attention of those snook and draw them towards you. If you're watching, I'm working this real slow, and it's weedless, so I'm not super worried about getting hung up. And I just told you I use 40-pound leader. I was out trout fishing yesterday. This is a 17-pound leader. So if I get hooked up, there's a solid chance I'll lose this snook. But I'm not playing for keeps today. It is snook season. If I got lucky and got a slot snook, he might come home. But I worked all night, and I just thought this would be a great time to make this video for you guys. So a lot of the kids I fish with or I meet out fishing can't afford nice gear and can't afford the tackle, and fishing spillways is just, you know, not super productive. But there's a lot of different ways to fish spillways, and if you see me out fishing, you shout out TCFC. 9 times out of 10, if I have my gear with me, I'm gonna hook you up with a lot of free tackle. Sometimes Sponsor Buzz has rods for me to give away, and I love nothing more than passing on my passion for the sport to the younger generation, and you guys are awesome. I want to see you out on the water, catching monster fish and making memories. So give me a shout out if you see me out fishing, and I'll hook you up. I fish pretty much every day between the jetty, the spillways, the lakes all over Lakewood Park, all over Fort Pierce really. And if you see me out fishing, I have the TCFC logo on my car. Come find me and I'll hook you up with some free gear. It might not be much, it just depends on what I have on me for the day. Oh, got one. That's what I'm talking about. You gotta work every cast like your last cast. Nope, sorry buddy. These are awesome. This is a tiny little fat snook. A lot of fun to catch, especially on light tackle. You guys, I'm telling you, listen to the fundamentals, work it slow. Every cast is your last cast. Have fun, be patient, and enjoy fishing for what it's supposed to be. I was just working this really slow across the top of those rocks, and I was bouncing it right off the rocks. You can feel it ticking. And that snook came out from the edge of those rocks and nailed my bait. But I have that rigged up. Let me show you how I have that rigged up. This is a Salt Strong Z-Man Slam Shaddy diesel minnow on a Texas eyes, weighted. I love these hooks. A lot of times these baits drive me insane. It's a love-hate relationship. Hard to keep them on any jig head made by Z-Man. And Z-Man makes some great baits. I love their chatter baits, the jackhammer.